Good morning. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I am the Reverend Dana Worsnop, minister of this community of so many stories containing multitudes. We gather to keep love at the center of our lives and the way we move in the world. And it's good to see everyone here together. However you got here, those of you Zooming and YouTubing in due to the wonders of modern technology, woof. And whether you rolled in, walked in, danced in, shuffled on in, we are glad that you have joined us. We are a community of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders, and all are welcome. We preface our services by acknowledging that our building rests on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Chumash peoples. So let us pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that cries out for justice and responsible stewardship. And in so remembering, may we find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and to all her peoples. Three quick announcements and then a bigger announcement. The Health and Safety Ministry team will discuss safety at our church after the service next Sunday, January 12th. There's a presentation with a slideshow, and folks are welcome on Zoom and in the sanctuary. This is a team that has been working quietly, essentially since COVID began, to really pay attention to our safety and how we can be safer together. So they've got a lot to share. And they've been doing really excellent work. So please come. Also, we are going to have our first session of New to You for anyone who is new to the congregation and wants to know more about our history and meet other new people and just start to get a sense of what this congregation is that you have found yourself in. And that'll be after church on Sunday over in the alcove, and I'll be leading it with people of our ministry, our membership ministry team. Also, and that's January 19th, 2 Sundays from now. And then Saturday, January 25th, there will be a day of mindfulness with the Venerable Kusala, who comes and does programs with the Friendship Sangha of the Heart, usually about once a year, and it's marvelous. And Neil Ortenberg, who is a member of the Sangha, will be at the Connecting Center after church to just with some sign-ups and to let anybody who has any questions about it, let them know more about it. And then we have an announcement, a formal announcement from the Leadership Development Committee.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gary Zinnick, and I'm on the Leadership Development Committee along with Carolyn Briggs and Xenia Young. And the Leadership Committee is also serves as the nominating committee to nominate folks to serve in lay leadership positions here at the church, including the Board of Trustees, the Leadership Committee itself, and the Memorial and Endowment Fund Committee. And even though these positions won't begin until the summer, when you're voted in at the annual meeting, we're beginning our recruitment season now. And specifically for the board, we have 4 positions to fill, including vice president, secretary, and 2 trustee positions. And these positions, you typically serve a 1 or 2 year term. So we do have term limits. It doesn't last forever. And we do respect the peaceful transference of power. So we're encouraged to develop a spiritual practice here at the church, and serving in a leadership position can really be a form of spiritual practice and a way of giving back to our beloved community. So I hope that if one of us approaches you to serve in one of the leadership positions, you'll consider it seriously. And if you have any questions, please see me. I'm going to be at the connecting table after the service, or you could also talk to Carolyn Briggs or Xenia Young. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Lastly, I just wish to thank all the people seated in the section nearest the open windows for keeping this section for individuals who are more comfortable worshiping among other masked worshipers. Thank you. One of our ways that we as a congregation are trying to keep each other safe together. We tell a new story each time we gather. Our lives ebb and flow and weave and kindle together. Fires ignite whenever we gather. And so let us enter sacred space.
Good morning. I am Worship Associate Jim Merrill, wishing you a very pleasant Sunday, wherever you may be, online or here in the sanctuary. We invite those who are Zooming or streaming into the service to light a chalice or candle as Reverend Dana lights the chalice of our free faith here in the sanctuary. We begin our service with these words, adapted from Reverend Cecil Williams, Minister Emeritus at Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco. Reverend Cecil passed in 2024. We come together in acknowledgement of our need for one another. Some of us need to be heard, but have no one who will really listen. Some of us need to be loved, and some of us need to love. Some of us want to change, but it's too painful. Some of us are lonely, but afraid to tell anyone. Some of us are sick of ourselves and others, but don't know what to do about it. Some of us want to be ourselves, but it seems as though other people won't let us. Some of us want the world to be a better place, but feel weighed down by a sense of futility. Some of us don't even know what we want, but we hope we can find it here. We come together, sometimes in fear, sometimes in trust, sometimes in pain, sometimes in joy, but always in hope and faith that we can help and strengthen each other in our quest for healing. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Carolyn Bjerke, the music director, and I would like to invite you to join in singing Rise Up, O Flame with me. We're going to sing it in a round, but first I'm going to play it twice and we'll just all sing it, and then we're going to divide into 3 sections. So please rise in body or spirit, and let's sing it through a couple times. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and
the Director of Family Ministry. Is my mic on? Okay. My name is Lily Rappaport, Director of Family Ministry. And now's the time that I'm going to call all those young or young at heart to come join me up front for the story. Come on. Perfect, please. And you look young at heart too. It's great. Across the ages, fire has been our tool, our weapon, and our beacon. Fire has been used both consciously and unconsciously for good and for bad. Today's story is a story of fire, and it's powerfully told from the perspective of fire. So when I say I, what am I? Fire, okay. A Tale by Fire, written by John David Buell. At night, I dream. I peek out from tiny holes in the sky and see the darkness all around. And smiles for this is where my light still gets to shine. What are those tiny holes in the sky that you see? If you look up in the sky at nighttime, you see those tiny, bright holes? Stars, right? And what are stars? They're burning gases, burning fire. And from my dream, I wake once more. To rise and reign. What am I, you say? I am the spark that with the leap of faith becomes something more. With time and care, I begin to grow. And as I am nurtured, I learn to nurture in return. How many of you make campfires or use fire to cook or to stay warm? I dance and play and roam. Doesn't fire move beautifully? And rage. Do you see in this picture? Looks like people are fighting. They have those cannons or those
Catapults.
catapults, right? Okay. And lose control. Ooh. What's happening here? Do you see the picture up there? It looks like it's a big forest fire, right? And then on the next slide, what's happened to the trees? Yeah, look at after the forest fire, they're all burnt up. But in my wake, my wounds heal with scars ever more beautiful. What am I, you say? I am the beacon lighting the way forward and the way home. What does a lighthouse do anyway? It brings all those ships home, right? I test my limits to soar and ignite. What do you see on July 4th and on New Year's sometimes? Those beautiful fireworks. And I evolve. You see, fire and energy can light up entire cities. And even still, I stumble. What do you see here? People are still fighting, they're in war. Do you see those tanks and guns and the burning fields? And I fall. For a moment, I ponder all I have built.
Is that out of space?
and all I have destroyed. And then I rise. What do you see there? It's a rocket ship. And where do you think it's going? Again and again until I spread my wings and glimpse a larger world whose borders are but figments of imagination. What am I, you say? I am the star that gives life. I am the gleaming tapestry of time telling a tale of countless worlds shining together as one. What am I, you say? I am all that lives in you. Let's keep that inner fire burning bright and beautifully as we rise in the center aisle and form a bridge to sing these bright flames out to their classrooms.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
Each Sunday, this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in our own church. Those who are at home have two ways to give. There will be a link posted in the Zoom chat, or you can text the word assist to the number that is on the screen. Here in the sanctuary, you can also text to give, and if you wish to still give cash or checks, you could put it in the box that's on the back wall of the sanctuary after the service. Our offering today goes to Ventura Homeless Prevention to keep our Ventura neighbors in their homes. When a one-time expense or a short-term loss of pay leaves them temporarily unable to cover the rent and facing possible eviction and homelessness, Ventura Homeless Prevention covers that gap. After this one-time assistance, they also help people to connect with resources like food pantries and low-cost utility programs, which can add a cushion to their budgets. Because the people who come to Ventura Homeless Prevention for rental assistance are on average paying 50% of their income in rent. And keeping a family in their home costs an average just a little over $1,200, making a huge difference for many people. Because in 2024, this group gave over $93,000 in rental assistance, and 203 of our Ventura neighbors, 118 adults and 85 children, were able to stay in their homes. Yay. And the stats are that they stay in their homes for many years to come ahead. It really is an incredibly effective program. Among the people are an aunt who took in her two nieces after her sister died, or a family of 5 who one parent lost a job and temporarily lost a job to cover them until they found another one. Or there was a mother of 3 who used the rent money that she had on paying for her father's funeral. Far too many of our neighbors are unable to save for emergencies, like this. And so donations like this one today helps Ventura Homeless Prevention keep a roof over their heads. Thank you for giving generously, as you always do. We are grateful for the generosity of this congregation, which weaves a tapestry of love we call community.
Now is the time in the service when we hold up the great joys and sorrows that grace our lives. We place stones in water for both the celebrations and sorrows in our hearts, making ripples that are felt throughout our community. You can submit a joy or sorrow for sharing via a link on the website, uuventura.org, or a link in our Thursday email bulletin, UUCV This Week. Those received by 8 o'clock on Saturday night will be shared that Sunday. I invite you now to speak into the gathered community or write into the Zoom chat the names of those you wish to celebrate or memorialize, or those in need of the loving embrace of this beloved community. Reverend Dana will now place one final stone into the water for all the joys and sorrows yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
Please remain seated as we sing Woyaya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be home.
Our reading this morning is in two voices, an adaptation, you might even call it a mashup, of two poems by the Reverend Sandra Fees. We have stories that long to be told and retold, stories that long to be imagined and reimagined, stories that long to be envisioned and celebrated.
And in our lives, there arrives the moment when a choice arises, a holy moment. A decision must be made. Do I remain as I am, holding on to familiar stories? Or do I risk inching, leaping, flowing in another direction, telling a new tale? Do I risk what I think I already know I am? Do I forfeit my security for the possibility that a simple shift may alter the course of my life, even perhaps the life of another? I long to let go of all that restrains me so that I might pursue the impossible and surmount the insurmountable. To let go of anger, to let go of the need to be in control, to forgive a friend, to forgive myself, to refuse what thwarts my spirit, to refuse what limits my mind, to surrender to what will come, to surrender to this holy moment I have let slip away for too long.
New stories await, lighting new truths and paths. Together, we have all we need to cultivate a transformative story of justice, love, and beauty. I invite you now into a guided meditation. First, simply breathe. Take air into your body to nourish you, and then let go of what your body no longer needs. Think back, as you can, to the first story you remember about yourself. What are the stories you tell others about yourself? What are the inner stories that you hold close? Is there a story you long to tell, or a story that you long to hear? What story do you wish to leave behind? What story lays yet before you? Breathe in, connecting to your center. Breathe out, connection from your center. And just take a few more breaths here in this space.
Good morning. We are Chucumite. We are a group that plays traditional folk music from the southern part of the state of Veracruz in Mexico on the Gulf. Veracruz was the point of entry for the Spaniards to the New World in 1519. And when they came, they brought their religion, obviously, and they brought instruments. And one of the instruments they brought was a harp about half this size, a Baroque harp that they used only in church music. And the indigenous people of the area loved the sound of the harp and eventually began developing their own and playing it with what developed into what is called son jarocho, the type of music we play, which is a mixture of three roots, which is the Spanish music, music of the slaves who were loading the ships, and their own rhythms. Because before this time, the native people had never seen string instruments. All they had was percussion, flutes, things like that. So our instrumentation today is the harp, which is developed into a larger size after the harps that were developed in western Mexico. And we have the leona, which is a melodic and bass instrument. It's carved out of one solid piece of wood that is hollowed out and a separate top and fingerboard are applied. And the jarana, which is a direct descendant of the Baroque guitar from Spain, and it's also one piece of wood with a separate top and fingerboard applied. And originally, the harps were cut out of a log, hollowed out with a separate neck, pillar, and top applied. And nobody makes them that way anymore. It's very labor and material intensive. But I do have one made in that fashion that was made for a friend of mine in 1957, and he passed it on to me. So we'll play El Siquitiri, which is a welcoming song that's played at the beginning of a fandango as a fiesta or celebration in Veracruz is called. Once we're in tune.
Buenas tardes, señorita, muy buenas tardes, señores. Muy buenas tardes, señores, señoras y señoritas.
A todas las florecitas de los dos activadores, la trovas más bonita de esos pobres cantadores.
Ay, que sí, que no, en este lugar estoy.
Ahora sí, mañana no.
Porque tu amor no está ido.
Ahora sí, porque si no.
Y de aquí no me voy.
Ande con la chica y yo.
Hasta que no hablé contigo para saber si es que soy de tu amor correspondido. Oye, bonito el fandango cuando todos lo acompañan, cuando todos lo acompañan, oye, bonito el fandango.
Bajo la sombra de un mango con olor de flor de caña, hay que ponerse muy changa para zapatear con maña.
Ay, que sí, que no, qué cosa tan exquisita.
Ahora sí, mañana no.
Al padre quinto jarana.
Ahora sí, porque si no.
En el pecho me palpita.
Ande sí con la chica y yo.
En el alma se engalana cuando se escucha solita el alba veracruzana. saludo muy decente de Jalisco ya importamos.
Realmente porque muy pronto nos vamos. A todos los concurrentes muy buenas tardes le damos.
Ay, que sí, que no, ya me voy a despedir. Porque mi camino es largo,
Ahora sí, mañana no.
solo le vengo a decir
La grande sí con la chica y yo.
que me voy para el santuario. Y si me hago a morir, me en mi novenario. Ay, ay.
Wow, thank you. What a way to kick off the new year. Thank you. One stormy day when I was teaching, the electricity went out about 15 minutes after school started. When it didn't come back on for growing minutes, I decided to just gather the kids on our reading carpet for a story. I threw together a kind of fire with flashlights in a bucket and some red, yellow, and orange tissue paper. It really wasn't even enough light to read by. So I told the kids to imagine that we were a tribe of people living years and years before electricity. And we were gathered around a fire in our lodge and telling stories as our ancestors had done. And we began telling stories. After about an hour or so, the power company still couldn't make any promises about when they could restore the power. So the principal canceled school. Parents were called, and of course, just as the last 2 or 3 of my kids were being picked up, the power came back on. But I still remember that morning, and I'm hoping that some of those kids did as well. For we are a storytelling species. And we've been telling stories as long as we have been speaking, which is about 150,000 years. And we've been using fire for about twice as long as that. So our stories have always been accompanied by fire in some form or another. We tell ourselves stories in order to live, Joan Didion tells us. And from another more pop culture angle, we get this from Jeff Goldblum's character in The Big Chill, who asserted that our proclivity to tell stories is greater than the drive to procreate. The exact quote is, "Don't knock rationalization. Where would we be without it? I don't know anyone who can get through a day without 2 or 3 juicy rationalizations. They're more important than sex." Yet, what is a juicy rationalization but a really good story? Often with ourselves as protagonists, explaining something that we did and why. Now, you could take that, actually, as I think the character intended, you could take this as a cynical dig at human character. Yet I don't think it's necessarily so. I often tell and retell stories of my day, my interactions with others, trying to make sense of my role and purpose in events. What just happened? How on earth did we get here? And if I had somehow anticipated something just going disastrously and that ended up working out, how come? Or the opposite. How did that interaction go to hell so fast? And what, and why did I do or say that? What was the other person thinking? Was I off base? Were they? How did we get here? All fodder for amazing stories, some of them perhaps rationalizations, but others just ways of getting to the truth of something. The stories we tell, the ones that weave us into places and families and the times that we live in. The stories that help us make sense of it all. The stories that explain and even defend our actions or our very beings, proving our worth and merit, or simply explaining. We tell stories about ourselves and we tell stories about each other. We live by narrative and sometimes believe that our own stories, and sometimes we do believe our own stories a little bit too much. Yet our stories are not all self-serving rationalizations. I tell stories in my head and my life and from this pulpit to uncover the truth of a matter. Now, I have had a years-old debate with my eldest brother, the scientist brother, not the long-distance athlete brother. We've had a debate about the relative merit of material scientific facts and the power of narrative. Doug is suspicious of narrative as being too subjective and not provable by the scientific method. I think he really only trusts things that he can prove in that way. He loves nonfiction, scientific journals, and documentaries. He literally survived the pandemic shutdown, sitting at home watching C-SPAN. He loves it. I read almost exclusively fiction and love movies and television shows which are all made up in the minds of masters of narrative, or many of them are actual masters, because I find so much human truth in it all, and beauty and possibility. Doug loves things numerically quantifiable, especially if it shows up in a good graph with lots of data points. Give me poetry, well-drawn characters, and surprising, though still credible, plot twists. Now, Doug comes and visits me at Christmas every year. And when he arrived this year, he was past due on reviewing a scientific paper. He couldn't seem to gather the will or concentration just to pound it out so we could walk the dogs by the beach. He asked how I deal with writer's block. So I shared a practice that I learned from another writer. I light a candle, yes, it's in a chalice, and invoke the muses and graces, saying, gracious, fierce, and tender ladies of power, beauty, and possibility. And then I thank them for all that they have given me in the past, all the inspiration. And then I say something like, and this morning, please keep it coming. Doug laughed, though he also agreed to let me light a candle for him, to the muses and the graces. And then he sat at the table writing while I read by the fire. Less than 2 hours later, he looked up from the screen and said, it worked. He had a solid enough draft that we could go out and play. He'd even found something in a graph in the paper that didn't quite add up to the way the authors had concluded. So apparently the muses can help with numbers too. Makes for a good story, doesn't it? And maybe the fire helped too. The small flame of the chalice and the whole fire in the fireplace. So here we are, people who still have the DNA of the ancestors who sat around fires telling the stories that helped explain life. What happened and how we came to be and what we do about it. Though I think Doug would disagree with this, I would say that science gives us new stories, sometimes better stories, but new explanations of what happens and how that things have come to be. I suppose there are still other stories that are there for us to ask what we do about it all. And we are now living in a great time of transition in human history, I believe. And so often, these kinds of big shifts and transitions happen alongside breakthroughs in communication technologies. First, we developed language, then alphabets and writing, then scrolls and books, and the printing press, and followed by radio and television. And we are now in the midst of a proliferation of digital communication, moving faster than any of the others in terms of those transitions, and far from settling down. New stories are being told in new ways. Now, all communication technologies have also facilitated falsehoods. From self-serving rationalizations to propaganda to outright lies to intentional disinformation. And we have all used, and all of them have been used to find new ways of understanding the world and our humanity. In our new world of communication, this shifting, changing, swirling, confusing world of communication, it's hard to tell which is which is a new way of thinking and understanding, and which is just outright misinformation, disinformation. One thing we can say is that even the true stories we have told are not always believed or convincing enough to make a difference. That seems to be part of the problem. Is it time for new stories? Probably. Though it's hard right now to say what they are. We don't know exactly where we are going yet. We can have the faith that we will get there because we kind of have always gotten somewhere. And for right now, rather than trying to find a new story, maybe it's a better plan to let go of the stories that we have been telling and hold ourselves open to new narratives and ideas, stories, and possibilities. Not to put away the critical mind, which is all the more necessary now, but just open up to new ways of seeing and other ways of seeing that we don't understand. And what if we move ahead into this new year, not with an old story or even yet with a new one, but with an ongoing openness to uncertainty and questioning assumptions? What if we choose, entering this new year and the new moment in history, that just to hold all of our stories more lightly, giving space for possibilities to enter, space for grace, space for curiosity. We have so many stories that long to be told and retold. Stories that long to be imagined and reimagined, that long to be envisioned and celebrated. Let us enter this year imagining and reimagining stories to tell, and letting them find us newly, bringing new understanding of self and others. Letting go of the stories that have held us back or no longer serve. For new stories do await, lighting new truths and new paths. Together, in community, we have all we need to cultivate a transformative story of justice, love, and beauty. Let us do it together. It matters what kinds of stories we tell. It matters that we tell true stories as best we can. They need not necessarily be literally true, but true to what we value in ourselves, in each other, and in the world. We weave narratives to live, and changing the narrative can change our lives and the way we live in it. What stories are we telling about this past year? What story will tell about the year new? What story will we tell about the year newly upon us? How will our stories guide us? Join me and all of us together by the fire, and let us find out together. Amen. May it be so. Speaking of fire, we once more participate in our New Year fire communion ritual. The use of fire in ritual, not just to tell stories by, but in ritual, is as ancient as the first people who learned to use it. And as Lily's story this morning showed us, fire has so many aspects and perspectives, so much potential to heal and power to harm, that we approach it with care. And I've heard from more than one of you that the Thomas fire is still much with you. And so I trust you to take care of yourself. Let the fire burn and burn away, or just sit back and watch all the other people's fires. This day, what stories from the past year or even farther back do you want to put to rest? What stories are done? And consider what it is that you are letting go of as the year passes. What blocks your path or obscures possibilities before you? What can you burn away so that you can be open to what lies ahead and consign it to the flames? Now, the ushers are about to pass among you right now. They're starting to. They've got baskets containing something called flash paper, which is a specially treated paper that basically kind of evaporates in fire, leaving no ash or residue. So take a piece of paper as it comes to you, and then also a pencil, or you can use your own pencil or pen, or there's one in the baskets, and then write a word or two on the paper. And whatever it is that represents what you wish to consign to the flames. And then come forward and put your paper into this flame that Jim now lights from our chalice flame. Let's move it over. Move this. And when you are ready, just come forward and put it in the flame. Jim and I are going to demonstrate. It really burns quickly and it just evaporates. But one of the best ways to do, we're just going to demonstrate, is put it in, and then lift it up and send it off. And even if it burns, you can't feel it. Even if it doesn't quite just evaporate. One more time. And so now Chucumite will serenade us as you come forward. Burn away what burdens you and enter this new year fresh, clear, and open. Just greet the people as they come forward. Say nice things. the many aspects of fire, including surprise and delight, and a moment of a moment of terror that abates, right? Please join me in prayer. Holy beingness of many names and no name, bright, shining flame of stories true and delightful. Spirit of life that dwells within and among and beyond us this day and always. May we indeed enter this new year lighter, freed from some of the burdens of the past, stepping into a new time with open heart, open mind, open to possibility and beauty, vigilant and aware and looking to root out falsehood, and also letting it carry us through to clarity. May we move lighter and more clearly of love and joy and hope and possibility, knowing that together we create bonfires that warm and nurture and heal and shine light forth into the world. And may all those who are ill find healing. May those who are in despair find hope. May those who are without shelter find home. And may all those still suffering conflict and war throughout the world, may we know peace. Amen. Blessed be.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing Building a New Way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. 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 Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Sow love that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Please join me in reading the words on the screen As Reverend Dana, as we prepare to extinguish our chalice, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry into our lives until we are together again.
All here in the sanctuary are invited for coffee, tea, bagels, and conversation in our community room, Berg Hall, which is through either of these sets of doors. You can drop by the big round table under the Connecting Center sign to visit with friendly folk who are waiting to say hello. Or if you want to know a little bit more about leadership opportunities in the church or the Day of Mindfulness on January 25th, there will be people there to answer those questions. You can also put a cash or a check in the offering box at the back on the back wall. And I hope those who are joining us via Zoom will also hang around with one another, and folks in Berg Hall who will join in on the big TV that is there in that room. I leave you with these words from the Reverend Rod Richards. May the stories we create honor our ancestors, prove worthy of our children and our children's children, and tell of connection and compassion in this present moment and each present moment moving forward. Go forth in love, go forth in peace, go forth into this new year lightly and brightly. May it be so.
Gracia, una poca de gracia y otra cosita y arriba y arriba.
¡Arriba!
Arribita, 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 yo no soy marinero. Yo no soy marinero, por ti seré, por ti seré, por ti seré.
¡Qué bonita es la bamba! ¡Qué bonita es la bamba en la madrugada cuando todos la bailan! Cuando todos la bailan en las ramadas, arriba y arriba.
Arribita,
Ay, arriba y arriba y arriba iré. Yo no soy marinero.
¿qué cosa eres?
Yo no soy marinero, por ti seré, por ti seré, por ti seré.
En la bamba, señores, en la bamba, señores, la madrugada que nos ponen el alma, que nos ponen el alma, luz y alegría y arriba y arriba.
¡Arriba!
Arribita, 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 no repican las campanas, repican las campanas del Malibrán, del Malibrán, del Malibrán.
Para subir al cielo, para subir al cielo se necesita una escalera grande y otra chiquita y arriba y arriba.
Arribita,
Ay, arriba y arriba y arriba iré. Yo no soy marinero.
¿qué cosa eres?
Yo no soy marinero, soy capitán, soy capitán, soy capitán.
Arribita, 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 yo no soy marinero. Yo no soy marinero, por ti seré, por ti seré, por ti seré. Ay, te pido, ay, te pido de compasión que se acabe la bamba, que se acabe la bamba, venga otro son, y arriba, y arriba, y arriba, y arriba, y arriba, y yo no soy marinero, yo soy marinero, por ti seré, por ti seré, por ti seré.
Yes. Yes, and of course I didn't bring any with me, but I'll, maybe I can get some to Carolyn or something like that.